back. We hope you're having an interesting day. Moving on to our next segment. Can you imagine a world where Sachin Tendulkar might not be the best cricketer that we know of? For those who don't know, he's considered to be a cricket god in India. Don't get offended so soon. There is statistics and logic to it. And don't quote me, blame it on our next speaker. Can we please have on stage Mr. Jaideep Varma, who's a writer and a director? He'll be talking on knowing is one's place. I'll leave it to him to elaborate.
Hello. Yeah, hi. Um, Please pardon my nervous energy because I'm not used to speaking in front of people. But then they said this was about failure, so I got this lucky break. It looks like I'm here to be the last word on failure. But, well, my failure rate in life is 99%. I made a calculation some time back about pretty much everything I've done. So I don't know, it could be because one takes more risks, it could be because one is not good enough, it could be because one has personality flaws, it could be because the world is not ready for, or the world is not in sync with what you have to offer. I don't know what it is, and I'm sure all of you have different answers to this same disquiet. So I'm here to talk about a property that I developed in 2009, and it's really weird that I'm speaking in an event called Impact Failure, because my property was called Impact Index, and yeah, it lasted about 9 years, and I am here to just speak about its journey and all the things that happen, and I'll try to make it as interesting as I can. I hope. I know this is football season, but I hope some of you like cricket, so I'll keep it very, very, very general. So I'll start. For a long time, I have been, as a cricket fan, I had this disquiet about how, uh, uh, cricketers were being judged as individuals. Cricket is ultimately a team sport. It's not an individual sport. It's not, but people, the way we discuss cricket statistics or the way we decide what determines a player's worth is seen in an individual context. He's made this many runs, this many, this thing, that, all tally stats, context-less tally stats. So it's kind of, and it began to get really, really ridiculous. And my introduction, which we actually hadn't conferred on the introduction. I mean, so it's a pleasant surprise for me. Was actually Sachin Tendulkar because for a long time, and I'm sure those of you who have followed cricket would remember how the 194 not out that happened in 2004 when his captain declared because he was batting too slowly, and there were instances of that earlier also. The drama that happened around his 100th where India lost that game because he played too slowly because he wanted to score his 100th. But there is one particular instance that nobody has ever spoken about, which made me angriest about about what he did. And I'm just going to very quickly recall that. This is the famous Monkey Gate Test match in Sydney in 2008. India had made 501 for 9. India had a 38-run lead. And Sachin Tendulkar was batting on 146 not out at that time. And Ishant Sharma was the number 11 at that time. He had played just a handful of games. He was absolutely new to international cricket. His batting average was something like 6 or something. And he came out to join Sachin Tendulkar. And normally what would you expect in a situation like that? You would expect the batsman who is set, let alone somebody who's 146 not out, to farm the strike, to take the strike and score as many runs, because India was, 38 runs ahead. So, we could have been 70, 80, 90, whatever. One expects the specialist batsman to take the strike. Sachin Tendulkar, of the first ball of the over, he used to take a single, and he did it 5 times in a row to give Ishant Sharma the strike. Now, this was absurd enough as it was. What was really crazy was how the commentators started talking around it. Nobody wanted to address it directly. And I was listening to both Hindi and Hindi commentary on radio at that time because I wanted to know, is anyone talking about this? Because this was so blatant. The Hindi commentator at one point says, maybe Tendulkar wants to stay not out, which increases your average. Nobody else said this. Then anyway, he, Ishant Sharma, as number 11, played double the number of balls, almost double the number of balls that Sachin Tendulkar played. They added 31 runs between them, where Ishant Sharma got 23 and Sachin Tendulkar got 8. And then Ishant Sharma got out. And then Sachin Tendulkar was called to the commentator's box, where Harsha Bogle and Wasim Akram were there. And they had that, it was a great innings. He was 154 not out, of course, all that. And then they asked him, but why did you, right at the end, and he probably deliberately asked him this as the last question, because who knows what he would have done otherwise. Why were you taking a single and giving the ball, the strike to Ishant Sharma? And he said, because the field was spread out for me, and the field was, had come in for Ishant Sharma, so there were more gaps in the field. Look, that's rubbish. That's a nonsense thing to say. And Wasim Akram said, oh, that is how great players think. He said this on air, okay? Now, that's when I realized that this is the future of cricket, and that future has come to pass, by the way. And I'm talking 2008. Then the other thing was that there is another cricketer who was in the same team who wasn't getting the same. See, Sachin Tendulkar was a god in 2008. You could not actually even criticize him. You couldn't say anything about him. But there was another cricketer in the same team taking on much tougher challenges and making a much greater fist of it, which was Rahul Dravid. He used to bat at 3. He took on much tougher challenges, but he wasn't getting the same credit. So my whole thing started, I just wanted to see what happens when you compare Dravid and Tendulkar. It just started like that. And we just look at the big matches, where it either affects the series or even just in the match, when you come up with a big performance under pressure. And it was very interesting because I found that, on a very qualitative level, Dravid came out on top. So I actually did a sort of a qualitative kind of a study, and this wasn't my profession, I should add. I'm a writer filmmaker, and at that time I was still doing that. And so this was just for fun, and also if we could get some. I wasn't really very commercially successful as that, and in that sense. So the company I used to work for, I was trying to. We had a cricket website, so I just put it out. And we ranked the top 20 Indian cricketers of all time, and Dravid came out on top. And in 2008, Sachin Tendulkar was having a bad run. He came 4th, which was a shocker for everyone who saw that. And Hindustan Times put it on the front page of their national edition, which was, in February 2009. And that's when I got a call from, and this is how lives change with these innocuous little things. I got a call from the ICC, the International Cricket Council, saying, we have just seen your Indian study. Could you do a similar study for us? Because we are going to finish 100 years at the ICC. And will you come to Oxford to do a presentation on this during our conference? So without thinking, I said yes. But then when I sat down to actually do the exercise, I realized it would be a farce, because, a qualitative exercise of this scale would be a bit of a farce. So I decided to try to see if we could do some kind of a quantitative thing. And I guess I used something that I was familiar with, which is, let's say, film rating. So you look at a scorecard, and you look at a performance within the context of that match. And I started giving, like you give 5-star ratings for a film, I started giving star ratings for each performance in each thing. And the even with this, the findings were amazing, were very interesting. So there were three of us. We actually manually went through every single scorecard of every single test match that has ever been played, which is, I think, at that time was about, I don't know, 2,200 or something. And we got these incredible, very interesting findings, and we went to Oxford, and it was just for fun. But in Oxford, what happened was, after the presentation, there were lots of people there whose books I had read when I was young, you know, as a student of the game. Some of them actually came up. I remember the former president of the New Zealand Cricket Board, this gentleman called Don Neely, who died recently. He came up and he actually told me this. That's when it shook me. He said, what you're doing is something nobody has ever done. We have talked about this, you know, using context of every match and every series, but nobody's ever done this. So don't give it up. Because I think he heard me say, or maybe from my wife, he felt that I was just doing this casually. So that's when it struck me. And then, you know, IPL had happened. So you know, T20 stats mean even less than normal test stats. Now I'm going to just cut a long story short. This is the build-up. The story now is I came back in 2009 from Oxford, and for the next 8 years, I worked on this. I planned to work on this for 8 months or 6 months. I ended up working on this for 8 years. I gave up everything else I was doing, and for the first 4 years, I ran it with my own money, and I was broke at the end of it. I was borrowing money, and it was an insane time because even though, you know, people have this notion that, oh, cricket is such a big sport and, you know, it is so commercial, it is the biggest game in India and everything, and so it's very easy, you'll be able to make money. It is actually the most, I worked in 6 industries in my life. It is by far the most unequal industry of all, because a very small segment of people get everything and everybody else gets paid peanuts. So that's what it was, you know, basically, and, you know, setting up, and I'm sure all of you are people who have, you know, come up with new ideas and tried to do something with them. You would know this and you would relate to this. In India, anybody who has come up with a new idea, it's like an Indian pedestrian trying to cross a busy road. Okay, nobody stops for you. This is not the first world. Nobody stops for you, and, you know, if it was legal, they'd run over you also. That's how India is. So if there were no traffic lights, if there were no traffic jams, I'm not sure any of us would really cross the road, you know, alive in any case. And so that's how the ecosystem is in people, basically. And so I'm not going to go through all that because, you know, that'll take too much time. And it's not just, and what that did to me, and since we are talking about failure, what that did to me also was that I slowly began, which I didn't realize then, I began to have a siege mentality, because people were constantly laughing you out of the room, basically. I remember I went to one IPL team and they said, they were very impressed by, you know, what one had, and then they turn around and say that we'd like to be the second team to try this, not the first. Okay, so, you know, nobody wants to be the first team to try this. Then I remember in Star TV, there was, we had a meeting in Star TV, and, you know, that was quite a big opportunity for us, and he basically started saying, look, I want your numbers to be understood by everybody. If you want to use your numbers here, your numbers must be understood by everybody. So, you know, he said, which I said is not possible. I mean, if everybody is not interested in getting into numbers, so why should it be accessible to everybody? I mean, it is accessible in the sense that anyone who's interested can examine it more closely, but why should everyone need to understand it? He said, no, my driver, my cook, my office peon, and my security guard needs to get it. So, see, this is the thing. So I said something like, oh, but then you don't need numbers, you need item numbers. Okay? See, you laughed. He didn't even laugh. And I mean, at least, you know, that's one thing one tries to get out of meetings. You know, that if nothing is happening, at least a couple of laughs, at least one can, you know, that's... So this kind of thing kept happening. I had so many crazy such meetings. In fact, I've published a book, and the last chapter of the book, which is something that I had to fight to get on, because I don't take names, but it's about all this whole journey. And all of this is there in that. There's much more. Anyway, so, and then what happened was that one got into one, as many of you, I'm sure you work with tech, and coders can be the most frustrating people in the world to work with, especially when they are not the most expensive ones, and so that's how it was, that drove one crazy and broke, but the intellectual curiosity kept me going, fundamentally, that what would this system bring, because occasionally when the work used to happen, we used to find really interesting findings. So that's when it was a crazy thing to do in retrospect. I'm not even sure it's the right thing to do, because I started using up all my savings, and that one was hopeful that at some point somebody would buy it. And the funny thing was, people abroad in Australia and England were much more supporting of us than Indians were. Indians were the worst with us. They actually literally treated us like shit. We made the Australian Cricket Board interacted with me before. The Indian board never did. And, there are many things, we made, so I like to say this, that we made our international debut before playing first-class cricket. We had made our international debut. All this happened. Then what happened, thanks to that journey, in England, Wisden, which is the oldest entity in cricket in England, they bring out the almanac, the Wisden almanac. It's like the most you could say, the most prestigious entity in cricket. Their editor, who was the youngest editor of Wisden, he kind of took a shine to this. And eventually, Wisden India actually bought a majority stake from me in 2014. So that kind of solved my problems, the financial problems and all that. And Impact Index went into a new phase, where we literally were the most written about and the most talked about alternative stat system in cricket. And there is none after that. Now, what was the most interesting thing about that was that one of our champions was actually Greg Chappell, the Australian captain who had come down to India. I had met him and I had spoken to him, and he asked me about his era. Who are the cricketers in his era, and what our system has to say about them. And I told him a few things about some of his teammates, and he said, they never got their due, what they did. So there was a batsman called Ian Redpath, who nobody remembered him now. So I told him how his contribution was really very significant. So we did a series of interviews with a lot of these people, and it was amazing to actually speak to them on phone. I used to call up and talk to them and tell them what our findings says. This is actually extremely moving to see players who had been forgotten, who had contributed so much, and their teammates knew what they had done, who had never got their due. They actually felt really moved that finally, somebody was actually acknowledging. And it's not just old cricketers. They were all around the world. For example, Ajit Wadekar, the Indian captain, his batting average is 31, I think. Nobody considers him to be a great batsman. Nobody who averages 31 in Test cricket will be considered a great batsman. But his performances came in such important matches that won India series. That his impact on in a manner in which it changed cricket history was immense. And he was also very moved. So there was a series of interviews we did. So that was, I hold that as the proudest moment for Impact, and that is something that is worth everything else that didn't work. To be able to. The big problem with Impact was monetization, which is, of course, we don't value our children based on how gregarious they are, but how popular what you create is with people, whether people catch on or not, pretty much defines its reason of existence. And that's what it was. Now, we had things, and I still believe we have things that For example, impact index can be used in broadcast very innovatively. It could make you actually look at it can make you look at cricket history differently. It can make you look at the game that you're watching differently. It can be used as branded content. It can be used, for team consultancy, like, you like forming a T20 side, like IPL teams, for gaming, for fantasy cricket. So basically, there are lots of things that we could have done. And we had some success with it. The problem was, and this is the other problem we had, because I had sold my stake to Wisden India had veto power on the marketing team. Unfortunately, the person they hired for that, he was not. So what he did was, during the 2015 World Cup, we had all this content. He did an exclusive content with 2 TV channels, which is the most bizarre thing anyone can do. He did an exclusive thing with CNN, IBN, and with NewsX, and he didn't tell us. And I asked him that, listen, see, I stayed away from the commercial side. In retrospect, it's completely bonkers. He went and he lied to them. He said, this is exclusive to you. I think he expected them not to notice that it was playing on the other channel. And it's bizarre because we worked so hard for 1.5 months, the period of the 2015 World Cup, and we gave, in fact, my team was stationed in the NewsX office. And I think they also noticed that some of our stuff was coming on other channels, and they didn't tell us because ultimately neither channel paid. Nobody paid us for what we were doing. It's bizarre, but that's what happened. And now what? How does one control such a thing? I mean, these are people who get hired and they become marketing people and they do this. He was sacked after that, but he went smiling. So I don't know, maybe, I don't know how these things happen. So this is, I realized then, and then, our property was given to, see, this is the problem. I was focusing on the intellectual side of things and not really on the marketing side of things. In retrospect, that was a mistake because the monetization of any property is actually the most important thing. We should have spent more time on that, maybe made more effort to find, better marketing people who were on the same page as us. But whatever, Sydney Thunder, for example, which is a team in the BBL, which is the Australian equivalent of the IPL, they hired us to actually consult with them, and they had come 7th out of 8 teams for the last 5 years before that. That year they won, the year we consulted with them. They won the tournament. And after that, we have not worked with them. They have not reached the semifinals even once after that. I'm talking about 2016. That is when they won. We were simply not given credit. They put it up on their website that, Impact Index, a consultancy firm from Bangalore, because we were operating from Bangalore at that time, did this, but nothing after that. So, and we were not paid. See, this is how cricket is. Anybody trying to raise any property in the cricket world is, basically you have to do it out of your pocket, and you have to get lucky. Now, so Wisden India was also losing money. They had their own operations, but they were also losing money. So they finally, put the whole intellectual property, they put a person in charge who was not really capable of it. So the whole thing shut down. The entire operations shut down. And intellectually, I think Impact Index did not even accomplish 30% of what it could have. Unfortunately, it needs a little money to run the back-end system. Otherwise, I would have run it as a hobby. But 9 years I had spent on this. So I don't know. Is it a cautionary tale for me? There are so many. Sure, one of the mistakes was that I had this, tendency of I was not a very polite person in meetings. Like, my thing was, you do all the work and then you have to be polite also. I mean, no, because people say such crazy things and they are so rude and so dismissive of you, and then you have to kind of swallow that. All that is there, but the answer to that question is, if it is a question, yes, one has to swallow that, and I should have done that, though I don't know if I can, but yeah. Or one should have a different face, a different kind of a person, and I'm a back-end person, let me be a back-end person. I always wanted to be a back-end person. As you can tell from my presentation, I am a back-end person. On a personal level also, I was a writer filmmaker, I had some success, and just at the very, very moment things were really working out, I started doing this full time, which was crazy, and then when the whole thing shut down in 2018, I decided I would just write for 3-4 years, and which is what I've done. And now I find myself out of sync with the crime and dark world of Netflix, because that's the only kind of content that people are interested in buying. They don't want anything else. This is another session. And so anyway, meanwhile, we have gone out, and stats has become a very big part of cricket, but in a very different way. It is stats that is accessible to everybody, and people have broken it down. It's granular, how many, matchups between players, and T20 cricket is very friendly with that kind of stats. But if you look at the larger picture, just like the world has become really dumb has dumbed down for sure in the last few years, cricket has dumbed down even more. Cricket is I say this with, and I'm coming to the end, so I will give you the reason why I'm saying this. Cricket is the lowest IQ major sport in the world today. Why? Because statistics is treated as trivia. When you watch a match, did any of you ask before the T20 World Cup, why are people telling us this guy needs 2 runs to score 3,000, this guy needs 4 wickets to make 150? Do you give a damn? Does anybody care who's got fun, whose career stats has 150 wickets or 3,000? This is a team sport. Nobody looks at cricket as a team sport. Also, the other thing that's happened with low attention spans is that it has become a sport of celebrity commenting. Now, cricketers are very good at talking about details, about granular details, how to bowl, what he's doing. But they are terrible when it comes to the big picture. There are some exceptions, but by and large, they are terrible when it comes to the big picture. So you have this Sunil Gavaskar, who, there is a lot to admire about him, but have you noticed how many times he says, oh, he's 2 runs away from 50? When it doesn't matter, when the team is losing, it doesn't matter. None of those things really matter. Then you have, if you have seen the 2019 World Cup final, New Zealand versus England, where the ball hit Ben Stokes and went for 4, and that suddenly everyone realized what a ridiculous rule that was, because when the ball hits a player, ricochets off a player, the batsmen don't run because it's considered bad manners to run on something that you haven't. But because the ball went for 4 and Ben Stokes went to the umpire and said, I don't want these runs, they said, no, you have to take it. And no, that's what it was. But here's the thing. Okay, they had a bad rule. They hadn't thought that this would, you know what, they haven't changed that rule 3 years later. They have not changed that rule 3 years later. And I have asked my friends in England, people who are in the MCC, what is going on? They say, oh, maybe it won't happen again. This is the crazy, this is crazy land. This sport is crazy land. I've always said this, that impact index is really a mindset. It's not a stat system. It's the mindset of knowing, of valuing context in a cricketing performance. Now, if this mindset was valued, and I'm coming to the end, all those who are saying that Virat Kohli did so well in the T20 World Cup, he was the highest scorer in the T20 World Cup. Virat Kohli is one of the main reasons India lost in this T20 World Cup. Despite scoring the maximum runs in the tournament, the reason is because 120 balls, you're not supposed to. How many times has a team been all out in 20 overs? How many teams have lost even 7 wickets in 20 overs? You've got somebody like who was not playing, but I'm just giving an example. Your tail enders, you've got Bumrah who scored 35 runs in 1 over in a test match. And the first 60%, the first 6 overs of your innings are power play overs. If your strike rate is not good in that, you are going to lose. India had the lowest strike rate in the tournament. There's only one team who had a lower strike rate than India in this tournament in the first 6 overs, and that was UAE. Not enough people talk, so we keep hailing. Virat Kohli is not a T20 player. RCB, for those who are familiar with the IPL, they know this, that RCB has never won a title in the last 3 years. Everybody knows Virat Kohli's strike rate has been very poor. Yet, he was picked in a side which has the best T20 batsman in the world, which is Suryakumar Yadav, which is something we had actually said 3 years ago, that Suryakumar Yadav, and yet Suryakumar Yadav used to come out to bat after the the power play is over. That's how crazy, and that's what I mean by mindset, that it's a mindset. Anyway, I'm going to end now. I'll just say one thing, that, what is there any satisfaction I have? One satisfaction is, of course, that I think we did make some people think a little differently on the game, even if we didn't last. Do I regret having done Impact Index, given that it's affected such a big part of my life otherwise? If we stay at only 30% of what we achieved and we never go beyond that, then yes, I would regret it. Maybe if in the future one can restart it, or somebody else restarts it with that little foundation that we laid, and takes it to some 70%, 80%, then I would not regret it. Then it's great. And the other thing is, speaking of satisfaction, I started with Rahul Dravid versus Sachin Tendulkar. In 2018, we had actually published that book, which HarperCollins published, with Akash Chopra, who's a former Test cricketer and commentator. He did a Twitter poll on his thing. This is 2018. Remember, in 2009, when we said Sachin Tendulkar was not the greatest Test cricketer, the greatest Test batsman to come out of India, people had freaked out and abused us and said a lot of things. But here's the thing. He did a Twitter poll, who is the greatest Test batsman in India ever? Dravid came out on top, ahead of Tendulkar. And that, we can take some part of starting that conversation. We can take some satisfaction from that. But is it enough? I don't know. And let's hope the mindset prevails in some way. That's it.
That was indeed a fascinating and new take on cricket, and I'm sure we can see parallels in the development sector as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Jaideep, and we request you to kindly accept a token of our appreciation. Can we have another? I request you to kindly remain on stage. Yes, because he's moderating our next a very interesting session with music band Swarathma. And I request the audience to please be seated while we await the band to get here. Yeah. We have Bangalore-based folk fusion band Swarathma joining in a conversation with Mr. Jaideep to share some failure stories in music. Mr. Vasu Dikshit, Mr. Jishnu Dasgupta, Mr. Sanjeev Nayak, Mr. Varun Murli, and Mr. Vinay Ramkrishna.
I can't sit in the center. This is your. It's an honor to be with Swarathma. This is one of the most interesting bands that has ever come out of India, which you will get a taste of it soon. And what is really remarkable about them is how long they have. They have music is a very big interest for me, so that's why they asked me to moderate this. And I have a little history with, a little bit of history. So, yeah, so, yes. Okay, this is Jishnu, this is
Vasu. My name is Varun.
And I'm Sanjeev.
And I think the most interesting thing about any group is how 4 or 5 different people or 6 different people work together. Everyone is all the time growing in different directions, and yet they have to come together to do something which is, common. It's not a joke that they have been around for such a long time. They all have, I'm pretty sure of this, they all listen to different kinds of music. I think we should ask them to elaborate on that.
Jaideep, thank you very much for having us here. Thanks to the SELCO Foundation for putting together this kind of a conference. It's not every day that you hear of people being vulnerable enough to talk about failures, and that has inspired us to be here and do some talking instead of just playing. So we are, of course, huge fans of Jaideep, very specifically for a film that I don't know if you know he's made. It's called Leaving Home, on the life and the music of Indian Ocean, the band, and it's something that really inspired us as well. So you're right in that we all listen to different kinds of music, but one of the things we all agree upon as a band is that Indian Ocean is a band that we all look up to. And yes, I think Indian Ocean deserves a louder round of applause for being what they are and standing for what they have over the years. And I remember in our early days when we used to follow them, whenever we used to have a disagreement or a situation that we are in trouble, we would ask ourselves, what would Indian Ocean have done? And we then ended up meeting them. And in fact, Indian Ocean and Leaving Home as a film is one of the reasons that we have connected as well, and that we were keen on having this conversation with you. So it will be great to hear a little bit about your journey with that, and then we can probably talk about how it impacted us.
No, thanks a lot for the kind words. I think there is, since, keeping in mind what the theme of this conference is, I'll just mention one anecdote here. There was this, the singer of the band, the main singer of the band was this gentleman called Ashim Chakravarti, who was there in the original version of the band, and so there were 4 of them. And Ashim, so I had made this film in 2000. I shot this film in 2006. In 2007, I was editing it in Bombay, and Indian Ocean were in town at that time. They had come to Bombay for a concert, and Ashim came up to me and said, "I know you guys are really busy with the edit, but can I ask you for a favor? Can you show me footage? Because I know you've interviewed a lot of other musicians and asked them what they think of our music. They have never said anything to us on our face. So can I see what people have to say about us?" So I said, absolutely. So we suspended editing on that evening, and we actually had this really memorable evening where we saw everything. And since, if you remember Ashim, you can imagine how much he must have enjoyed that. He was very moved by what people had to say and stuff, and then 18 months later, he dies. He dies, and the film still hasn't come out. And there is a memorial of his. It was a huge shock for us. He was 52 years old. And there is a memorial in Delhi. So I go for that, and they ask me to speak. And I go up on stage, pretty much like this. And I see all those musicians. That's what I saw. All those musicians whose sound bites he had heard, he had come to listen to, were seated there. Rabbi Shergill, Shubha Mudgal, Madan Gopal Singh, Papon, whole bunch of other people. They were all seated there, and it struck me that, at least Oshim came and asked me that, what did people think about us? Otherwise, most people never even get to know, and that's not even about success. I'm not even sure a wife or a husband gets to know what the marriage partner really thinks of him or her sometimes. In fact, most times, because we don't really talk about these things. So I was just thinking maybe, like in cricket, we have benefit matches for players who are alive, after they retire or something. We should have that in real life. That I think I said something like that, and people laughed, and so that's what I remember. But I think it's interesting in the context of success and failure also, this kind of a thing. That what is it really in the end, what do people think of us? Is that what success is about, finally? I mean, I would like to ask you that, because you guys have, you've done so much work over the... And what is really interesting about you as a band is that you don't do low-hanging fruit music, and the world has kind of gotten, the attention spans have dropped, and, they want something catchy in the first 10 seconds, and to actually stick to your guns and do exactly the kind of music, I think you should take it away from here, and please tell us how you do this and how you've lasted this long.
Yeah, one of the things that we've been conscious is to see if we can bring out our vulnerabilities and speak them out. It is a tough job, and also not everyone agrees, even within us, that a band should be a space to speak something like that. Yeah, we are coming here to play. We'll just play and go. But music is not just that. It's not a corporate job where you just, log in and log out. Because when you're a musician 24 hours. Even if I consider myself as an artist first and musician later. Music is a medium of expression. So if I'm not doing music, but I'm thinking about music. So I'm 24 hours an artist. So whatever happens in my personal life is reflected in my music, and whatever's happening in my music is going to reflect in my personal life.
And that's true for all the band members. So that's a lot happening, right?
Because, and for all of us. So that's like too much, actually. And I always, like I was telling even in the room, that music and being in a band is like marriage, except there is no sex involved. At least not within us. Not yet. So, it's not a bad thing to not have. Otherwise, it's the same. It's really the same. We go through same kind of emotions, fights, and also we have failed. Like there have been band members who've come in and gone, who've taken a break, but we don't know whether it's a break or are they leaving, because there is lack of communication probably. And I don't think it's also anything is failure, or also if two people are not together, or like when people say, oh, their marriage failed, I don't think it's marriage that failed, it's just that
the chemistry failed. The chemistry failed.
That's
right?
all. I mean, you were married for that period of time, and this is all that you could share, and then you've moved on with your individual lives. That's all. It's not a failure, because the minute you look at it as a failure, then you go downstream. So similarly, I think whoever band members have come and gone, they have taught us lessons, and they have taught us, if we have failed in that communication, that just means that we need to communicate better henceforth. That's the lesson we take. And I always think failures are really good. We have to fail. And as musicians, and again, coming back to as artists, if you are not failing, then you are in a comfort zone. That means you are not trying harder enough, or at least you are not trying something new. So that to fail is actually to take a step, new step every time. So we have learned that okay, communication is way that we need to connect with each other. We fail, we flop, and then we try again, and that's how we keep moving. And it's really not easy. 15 years to spend guys of similar caliber and thinking, cracking the same kind of jokes and then still fighting over the same issues. It's really not easy. And also, in India, especially if you're doing indie music, we're not doing the very high-paid Bollywood or mainstream music, where we are actually finding it tough to survive in our daily lives. That part is also very, very difficult. But we knew that if we stick on and if we are together, we will cross that bridge as well.
Can I ask you one question? Things have gotten actually much more difficult in the last 10-15 years for musicians. The industry has changed so much, the whole internet thing, and also low attention spans. Do you think if you were starting off today, things would be different for you? Would it be easier, more difficult? Would you do anything differently?
I think if you're starting off today, I believe it's extremely hard. Because I work also as a producer and run a music studio by the side, I'm constantly working with upcoming musicians putting out their first single or their first EP or an album. And every time the EP is or the song is mastered and given to them, the first question that I get is, what do I do with this now? Because there is so much available, so many avenues, that we are spoiled for choices. There's just too many things. And sometimes you're running after metrics, numbers, views, likes, and all kinds of things just to get a gig. Because if you have more likes, then the chances are people are going to hire you. But on the flip side, if you had sold that many copies of your music the old school way, you would have made way more money from that than the number of streams that you're getting in today's days. You don't get paid as much. And it's a weird game. I hate streams. I hate the whole digital side of things. I don't like it at all. But if you don't have that, strangely, you don't get gigs, because people measure whether you're a good band or a bad band based on how many streams and likes you have. So it's much harder for people today, because especially when they're starting off with 0 likes, 0 views, brand new YouTube page, a brand new Instagram page, and there is the whole aesthetic angle. My page looks good or bad. Does it have a color theme or not? It's just going crazy.
How have you guys handled that? Because that's something you also have to do. Engage with people on social media and generally reach out to your fans. How do you do that?
I think we fail at it.
Last year, I happened to see this post or a video by Nirmika Singh. She's the executive editor of Rolling Stone magazine, has been a great friend to the band. She said something that I really enjoyed, or rather really spoke to me. And what she said is that for me this year is going to be about going deeper with fewer, where it's not going to be about a massive number of people who have decided to follow us, but to form deeper relationships with the people who have chosen to follow us or listen to us or come to our show or whatever it may be. So as a result of that, in the last, I think, 8-10 months, we've done about 6 or 7 of these sessions, because we weren't getting shows around that time because of the pandemic, and they've only just picked up recently. We would do these Google Meet hangout sessions where the band and 30 fans, not more than that, we would just talk about something that an experience or a song or an album or a tour, and we would just hang out. We would just talk, and it would be an open session. There are no mics that are muted. There's no administrator. Everyone's free. So some people had told me, so how will you moderate? What if somebody says something inappropriate or crazy? It's the same as expecting that at a concert. You've got to work with it. You've got to handle it and trust that people who are going to come to spend an hour and a half on a Friday evening are going to come with the right kind of intent. So to answer your question on how do we handle something like this, it's the ability to use this medium for the purpose of going deeper, not wider. If you keep that at the back of your mind, then perhaps these things of, oh, we only have so many likes, the others have more, won't bother us as much.
These are crazy times because, like I was telling them, in Bombay, people select actors based on how many followers they have. This is absolutely insane. So let's say somebody who's done great work, like say Nasiruddin Shah, for example, if somebody of that category has higher followers, they will go for that person, regardless of how he got those followers. Which, I mean, so it's a really crazy time. So. How do you guys communicate with each other? Could you elaborate on that? Because that is the most fascinating thing about a band, I guess.
Many times we don't even communicate, and that says a lot. Honestly, we like to, be in touch. We have a jam pad where we kind of let it all loose in terms of music, and also sometimes we kind of meet and whenever we are not doing gigs, Jishnu has a calendarized event in our band calendar where he says today is a band meeting, and he just sends the agenda. We tend to kind of stick to the agenda, but then we end up overshooting all the time. And, we talk about everything. Anybody has any issues, we talk about that. Anybody feeling low, anybody feeling high, we talk about that as well.
How do you musically come together, given that you have such different tastes? How does it come together? Do you have, because is there any convincing involved? How does that happen? How does that work in the process?
Interesting you use the word convincing, because when you said that, I think we do. But not in a way of saying, hey, please, just let this be. But it's really hard for us to come together musically in that sense because of the taste that we each have. And like you started off saying, yeah, the truth is none of us kind of listen to the same kind of music as much. It's very rare that our musical tastes overlap. If you just look through our playlist or what we listen to on a daily basis, it's very rarely that it overlaps. But we have over the years kind of made peace and come to a place where we have learned out of doing it and seeing how it worked for us, that it's okay if it doesn't meet, if it doesn't overlap. It's okay that our styles are different, our tastes are different. I may be thinking I want a rock song and I've come up with a crazy rock riff, and then Vasu is throwing a very Indian folky line over it, and I'm like, oh, I thought we can make this like a Foo Fighters track, but it's not going in that direction. But that's how we write. And then we'll be like, what if you sing like this? What if you sing like that? It goes through a lot of back and forth. And we've also had fights, because of this. Sometimes we don't, and certain songs don't evolve over a certain phase for a very long period of time. There are some tracks that just happen. There are some tracks that takes months, and in our first album, we've sat with certain songs. I remember back then Vasu used to do a lot of writing, and Jishnu and I were fairly new in the band, and I remember there were songs where he would have 2 lines, and the third line he would just go na 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 na, and the fourth line he would sing again, but you'd be like, I'm not finding the right word for the third line. And we would sit like that for a very long period of time. So over the years, of course, tying into all of these social stuff and all of that, it does put pressure on us that we have to release songs sooner. The management companies we worked with, there was pressure from there. We need new content, and that made me dislike the word content altogether. I hate it. And you write new songs, do this, do that, do this. Sometimes we really pressurize to write. And very recently we tried writing songwriting, and we had a songwriting session of sorts. We said, hey, let's meet for these many days every day at Jam Room, and we'll write new material for the new album. And I don't think any of us are really excited with the ideas that came out of it. Now we're thinking of maybe we should do it differently.
But that's part of the discovery. That's great. At least you're doing this. I mean, actually, that leads me to the to this question that when you guys started out, and it's been what, 17 years or something like that, 16, 17, 15 with this lineup, which is incredible. I think this does deserve an applause. I mean, I'd like to applaud. I mean, this is just amazing. Uh, when you so let's look back 15 years ago. What did you think would happen with your music? Where no, I know this. It's true for everybody. It's true for everybody in the creative arts, more or less, or at least 99% of people. And especially because you're not doing low-hanging fruit music. I think that's very important. You know, even Indian Ocean has, you know, and that's something I know about. I mean, I know what you know, they had a good sense of humor about it, basically. And they used to make jokes about what they have not done. So I'm just curious to know what kind of a thing, what was your starting point? What did you think would happen in the next 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years? I mean, this is almost like a management question, right? Where do you see yourself 10 years from now? But I think I'm asking whether what you see now, if you had seen that view then, what would you have thought?
I don't think we were thinking at all. Really.
Probably a good thing. Yeah.
Really, we were not thinking. Like, Jishnu was in a corporate world. Sanjeev is the only one who's still working, but he's in a very good position where the company doesn't want to leave him. So, and Varun has just started his studio a couple of years back, and I used to work as a filmmaker in a company, and we were not thinking really, because we were driven by the passion to create music. And if we had really thought so much, probably it wouldn't have happened.
Right.
And I think now we've started thinking, and the more you think, there is more insecurity.
So are you going to stop thinking?
Maybe. Get back to doing.
Great. Interesting. Is there anything else? I think this is actually a great note to...
Let's play some music.
Yeah.
But I think this is probably one of the first few times that we have done this. This part of it is actually scarier than, you know, picking up a guitar and playing. Not fun, I'm speaking for you, bro. So...
no, thanks a lot. It was great actually listening to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I'm just thrilled to be here among people who are receptive enough to want to listen to stories about a band that's been around for whatever number of years. So thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, guys.
So shall we play some music then?
Yeah.
And while we're getting ready, we have a birthday boy in the room. So everyone, happy birthday, Altaf.
Can you reduce the gate on my guitar? It's chopping the gate on my guitar. Can you reduce it? Yeah, it's chopping. Okay.
Good evening, everybody. On any other occasion, I would have been seeing you for the first time. But now that we're all friends, it feels like we're just here at a jam pad with a few friends. And that is what happens when people come together to just share stories, both happy and sad. And may the happy stories make us happier, and may we learn from the sad ones. This first song is a song that is a lament of a mother that realizes her children have forgotten that they're brothers. Originally written about the river Kaveri. It could be about anything, any part of the earth, any part of nature that man chooses to take for granted. This is a song called Pyasi.
One, two, three. Hey, ra ra re 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 Hey, ra ra re 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 प्यासी हूँ मैं तुमको पिला के थक गई हूँ मोड़ों पे रुक के प्यासी हूँ मैं तुमको पिला के थक गई हूँ मोड़ों पे रुक के प्यासी हूँ मैं तुमको पिला के थक गई हूँ मोड़ों पे रुक के अश्क तो बहने दो पानी हूँ पानी रहने दो जाना किसकी बोली बोलना है अब। कहाँ से आई कहाँ है जाना किसकी बोली बोलना है अब। किसने है ये खेल रचाया पुतला बना के तुमको नचाया रे। प्यासी हूँ मैं तुमको पिला के थक गई हूँ मोड़ों पे रुक के। मेघा तू भी मेघा तू भी लौट जा रे घर समंदर भूल गई हूँ। मेघा तू भी लौट जा रे घर समंदर भूल गई हूँ। राख को क्यों मुझ में बहाया टूटे किनारों पे क्यों झुकाया सर। प्यासी हूँ मैं तुमको पिला के थक गई हूँ मोड़ों पे रुक के। प्यासी हूँ मैं तुमको पिला के थक गई हूँ मोड़ों पे रुक के। अश्क तो बहने दो पानी हूँ पानी रहने दो। तुमको पिला के प्यासी प्यासी
Young generation, your attention please. Following is message from over-concerned elder generation about your life choices. Why reject high-paying corporate career for such chasing of rainbows in developmental sector? What is the point of me spending so much on your education if you are going to be wasting your life in such a situation? Question is, बेटा क्या कर रहे हो अपने जिंदगी के साथ? What you're doing with your life, I say. बेटा अभी भी वक्त है, सुधर जाओ. बेटा स्वेटर पहनो.
स्वेटर पहनो नहीं तो लगेगी सर्दी। बेटा स्वेटर पहनो नहीं तो लगेगी सर्दी। ये सीखो वो भी सीखो, डालो स्कूल की वर्दी। तूने ये कैसे सोचा अपने मन की गाएगा, हम जो बोले वो तू कर ले वरना कुछ ना हो पाएगा। ना 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 हो पाएगा। बेटा स्वेटर पहनो नहीं तो रहेगी कड़की। बेटा स्वेटर पहनो नहीं तो रहेगी कड़की। बंद हो जाएगी मुंह पे तेरे फ्यूचर की खिड़की। सड़कों पे धूल उड़ा के बस में धक्के खाएगा, हम जो बोले वो तू कर ले वरना कुछ ना हो पाएगा। ना 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 हो पाएगा। तेरे अंकल के बच्चे बच्चों के नंबर ऊंचे, ऊंची है उनकी इज्जत, इज्जत को तू क्या समझे। तेरा अच्छा हम जाने, जाने क्या तेरा होगा। होगी बस खाली थाली, थाली में चेहरा होगा। मन को अपनी समझा ले। बेटा स्वेटर पहनो नहीं तो बजेगी सीटी। बेटा स्वेटर पहनो नहीं तो बजेगी सीटी। वो वाली कविता पढ़ लो गिर गिर के चढ़ी थी चीटी। क्या तू अब मेरी इज्जत दुनिया में लुटवाएगा, हम जो बोले वो तू कर ले वरना कुछ ना हो पाएगा। ना ना हो पाएगा। ना ना हो पाएगा। ना ना हो पाएगा। तेरे अंकल के बच्चे बच्चों के नंबर ऊंचे, ऊंची है उनकी इज्जत, इज्जत को तू क्या समझे। तेरा अच्छा हम जाने, जाने क्या तेरा होगा। होगी बस खाली थाली, थाली में चेहरा होगा। तेरे अंकल के बच्चे बच्चों के नंबर ऊंचे, ऊंची है उनकी इज्जत, इज्जत को तू क्या समझे। तेरा अच्छा हम जाने, जाने क्या तेरा होगा। होगी बस खाली थाली, थाली में चेहरा होगा। मन को अपनी समझा ले।
लगता है इम्पैक्ट फेल्यूर में इम्पैक्ट हो गया है। ये गाना उन बचपन की यादों के बारे में है जो तरक्की के नाम पे खो गए हैं। This is a song about childhood memories that we have auctioned off in the name of development. This is a song that tells us that may our roots be strong, because if they aren't, the first gust of breeze will blow away all the leaves. This is a song called Patte Sare. The funny thing about writing a song is that it tends to mean different things to different people. And what we are curious about is that what will you take away from the thought of there being walls that advance between us? This is Patte Sare.
1, 2, 3.
कहती है क्या तुझको बढ़ती दीवारें, कहती है क्या तुझको बढ़ती दीवारें, आईने में दिखते चेहरे अनजाने, जड़ से कटा हुआ पेड़ है तू, उड़ जाएंगे ये तूफान में पत्ते सारे। कहती है क्या तुझको बढ़ती दीवारें, आईने में दिखते चेहरे अनजाने, जड़ से कटा हुआ पेड़ है तू, उड़ जाएंगे ये तूफान में पत्ते सारे। खेला जिस आंगन में तू, खेला जिस आंगन में तू, हो गया पराया वो क्यों, खेला जिस आंगन में तू, हो गया पराया वो क्यों, पूछे तुझसे अपनी वो पहचान, क्यों थे खामोश और हुए अनजान, जड़ से कटा हुआ पेड़ है तू, उड़ जाएंगे पत्ते सारे। झूला जिस डाली से तू, जिस डाली से जिस डाली से झूला जिस डाली से तू फांसी का फंदा वो क्यों, झूला जिस डाली से तू फांसी का फंदा वो क्यों, जिस मिट्टी को तू नहीं सींचा क्यों वो रूठी रंग है क्यों फीका, जड़ से कटा हुआ पेड़ है तू, उड़ जाएंगे तूफान में पत्ते सारे, कहती है क्या तुझको बढ़ती दीवारें, आईने में दिखते चेहरे अनजाने, कहती है क्या तुझको बढ़ती दीवारें, आईने में दिखते चेहरे अनजाने, जड़ से कटा हुआ पेड़ है तू, उड़ जाएंगे तूफान में पत्ते सारे।
यात्रीगण कृपया ध्यान दें, जन्म से चलकर मरण तक जाने वाली जिंदगी की गाड़ी विलंबित है और थोड़ी ही देर में आपके बीचों बीच आपके मन में आने की संभावना है। जी हां, अभी क्या मालूम क्या समझ के आए थे, लेकिन अभी समय आ गया है भजन का। For those not understanding Indian language, once was a time of emotional torture, now is a time of devotional torture. For that very purpose, my request to one and all, kindly raise your hands into the air like this. Only those concerned with body odor may lower their hands. Rest concerned with only spreading fragrance of their soul, please raise your hand and be ready for pravachan. Maharaj ji shuru kare.
यीशु अल्लाह और कृष्णा जय हो जय हो, यीशु अल्लाह और कृष्णा कौन भगवान है अपना, यीशु अल्लाह और कृष्णा कौन भगवान है अपना, फूल पे फूल चढ़ा दे, दिए पे दिए जला दे, फूल पे फूल चढ़ा दे, दिए पे दिए जला दे, माला पे माला जपना, माल को अंदर करना, माला पे माला जपना, माल को अंदर करना, यीशु अल्लाह और कृष्णा कौन भगवान है अपना। यीशु अल्लाह और कृष्णा कौन भगवान है अपना, यीशु अल्लाह और कृष्णा। संत कबीर ने देखा था एक सपना, जहां पर आया कोई नहीं, जो भी है अपना।
महाराज, ये संत कबीर कौन था?
अरे मूर्ख, संत कबीर कौन था? अरे संत कबीर वो था जिसने अपने दोहों से मानवता का धर्म समझाया। संत कबीर वो था जिसने अपने दोहों से मानवता का धर्म समझाया। तो
आज उसी कबीर के बारे में कुछ बोलेंगे, कुछ गाएंगे
ओहो,
और इस IIM में रंग जमाएंगे।
क्या बात महाराज।
तो संत कबीर आए धरती पे। आप सोच रहे होंगे संत कबीर मर के 500 साल हो गया, धरती पे कैसे आया? पर हम आपको दिखाएंगे संत कबीर धरती पे कैसे आया। क्या आप तैयार हैं? हमारे साथ गाएंगे? चलिए रिपीट कीजिएगा। संत कबीर धरती पे।
अरे ऐसा गाएंगे तो गेट का चौकीदार भी नहीं आएगा। देखिए कितना आप साइड हो गए महाराज जी, थोड़ा दम लगाइए।
संत कबीर धरती पे, धरती पे संत कबीर, संत कबीर धरती पे, धरती पे संत कबीर। अरे संत कबीर आ गया है। अरे मैडम पीछे मुड़ के क्या देखते हो मैडम? संत कबीर है, आपके मन में है, आपके दिल में है संत कबीर। जी हाँ, पीछे मुड़ के देखने से कुछ नहीं होगा, आगे देखिएगा लाइफ में। जी हाँ, हम सब में है संत कबीर। पर ये दुनिया की जो दुनियादारी है, ये जो बढ़ती हुई ऑयल प्राइस है, इकोनॉमी है, रिसेशन है, उसने हमें अंधा बना दिया। तो घर जाके सोचेगा। तो संत कबीर आए धरती पे और बोले कि 500 साल में कुछ खास नहीं बदला है। जीने के लिए जो जरूरी है वो श्वास नहीं बदला है, पोशाक बदली है पर इंसान नहीं बदला है। डर वही है, डर का सामान कहीं बदला है। पहले चलती थी तलवार की धार, अब चलती है गोलियों की बौछार। 500 साल में कुछ खास नहीं बदला है। आप तो जानते हैं पिछले जमाने में रामायण में मरीचि एक डियर आई थी सीता मैया को डिस्ट्रैक्ट करने के लिए। आजकल हमारे देश में चीता आने लग गए हैं। पता नहीं किसको डिस्ट्रैक्ट कर रहे हैं। तो 500 साल में कुछ खास नहीं बदला है। कबीर 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 कोई बनता नहीं।
और महाराज माँ को समझा नहीं।
All these young generation peoples, teach them in their language. ट्यूबर्ग बीर, बडवाइजर बीर, कल्याणी ब्लैक लेबल बीर, ये सब बनता है पर कबीर बनता नहीं।
पुअर जोक फॉर द विन।
पैदा होता है जब बच्चा तो बातें सारी नहीं जानता। वो नाम नहीं जानता, धर्म नहीं जानता, जाति या दुनियादारी नहीं जानता। जैसे फूल का रस चुरा ले कोई काला भंवर, गीली मिट्टी पे लगा दे कोई पैर की मोहर। अरे ये दुनिया है जो बनाती है दीवार दिल और दिमाग पर। पैदा तो सभी होते हैं कबीर बनकर। इसीलिए मैं कहता हूं दिन में तो सब है ज्ञानी। अरे साधो, दिन में तो सब है ज्ञानी और रात में चोर की नानी।
जोर की नानी। यीशु अल्लाह और कृष्णा, कौन भगवान है अपना? यीशु अल्लाह और कृष्णा, कौन भगवान है अपना? फूल पे फूल चढ़ा दे, दिए पे दिए जला दे। फूल पे फूल चढ़ा दे, दिए पे दिए जला दे। माला पे माला जपना, माल को अंदर करना। यीशु रे अल्लाह रे, कृष्णा रे अल्लाह रे, यीशु रे अल्लाह रे, कृष्णा रे। यीशु अल्लाह और कृष्णा, कौन भगवान है अपना? बोलो यीशु अल्लाह कृष्ण की। अभी गाना खत्म हुआ, ताली बजा सकते हैं।
अरे रुकिए रुकिए, ताली बजा सकते हैं। तब से देख रहे हैं कॉन्फ्रेंस के नाम पे बहुत मस्ती चल रही है। अरे हम कहे पढ़ाई का काम करिए, देश की उन्नति का नाम करिए। अरे क्या है, सब गाना बजाना बुला, टुनटुना वाले को बुला लिए हैं, नगाड़ा वाले को बुला लिए हैं, ये भी कोई मतलब होता है? ऐसे करेंगे आप देश की तरक्की? कैसे करेंगे आप देश की तरक्की? अरे ये अब बात समझ लीजिए कि जब कोई देश कहता है कि हम धरती मां के संग खड़े होंगे, वी विल स्टैंड विद द मदर अर्थ, तब हम कहते हैं कि सारे पशु पक्षी सुरक्षित रहने चाहिए। ऑल बीइंग्स, लिविंग बीइंग्स मस्ट रिमेन इन हार्मनी विद नेचर। तभी जो है हमारे देश ने कहा है कि जो हाथी के दांत का जो बिजनेस होगा, आइवरी ट्रेड में हम सहमत नहीं होंगे। लेकिन अभी चूंकि उसी देश से आ गए हैं चीते, अब हमारी रिस्पांस कब पड़ गया है फीके। तो इसीलिए हम कहते हैं कि ये कैसा शासन है जो जब हवा बदली तो हमारा भी स्टैंड बदल गया। अरे यही तो हम देख रहे हैं पूरे देश में। अरे जनता ऐसी कूटनीति वाले सरकार के खिलाफ आवाज उठाइए।
मित्रों, आप तो जानते हैं हमारी सरकार इस देश को क्या क्या गिफ्ट दिया है। अच्छे अच्छे रास्ते देखे हैं, बेंगलुरु के रास्ते देखे हैं।
हाँ, उनको आज हम नदी कहते हैं।
अरे हमारी सरकार, ये जो नोटों के रंग फीके हो गए थे उसमें हमने रंग भरे हैं, कलर रंग बिरंगे नोटे। पूरे देश को हमने एक लाइन में खड़ा किया है एटीएम के सामने।
बहुत बढ़िया।
अरे वी विल टेक दिस कंट्री टू द स्काई ऐसे। सर पे हाथ डाले डाले, खाली पेट मारे ओ। सर पे हाथ डाले डाले, खाली पेट मारे टोपी वाले। सर पे हाथ डाले डाले, खाली पेट मारे ओ। सर पे हाथ डाले डाले, खाली पेट मारे टोपी वाले। झुके तू पैरों को छू ले, पर अपना पिछू संभाल ले। हाथों को तू छोड़े,
खरीद ले घोड़े। यही तो राजनीति है भैया, बोले मेरी मैया। झुक के तू पैरों को छू ले, पर अपना पिछू संभाले। यही तो राजनीति है भैया, बोले मेरी मैया। हंसने को और हंसा ले, रोने को और रुलाए। पकड़े गए तो बोले ना 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 ना। सर पे हाथ डाले, खाली पेट मारे। ओ सर पे हाथ डाले, खाली पेट मारे टोपी वाले। मथे पे लाल टीका, खून वही है काला। धर्म के नोटों को छापे, चिपकाते हैं जो दिलों पे। नीति का मैला उजाला, अंधा किए साला। ओ मथे पे लाल टीका, खून वही है काला। नीति का मैला उजाला, अंधा किए साला। अंधा किए झंडा, झंडे का है बंटवारा। खेल वही पुराना। सर पे हाथ डाले, खाली पेट मारे। ओ सर पे हाथ डाले, खाली पेट मारे। ओ सर पे हाथ डाले, खाली पेट मारे टोपी वाले।
तो IIM बेंगलोर में आए हुए सदस्य मजा आ रहा कि नहीं? अरे तनिक जोर से। वेरी मच नाइस। In this quest to change the world, kindly take care of yourself. Most importantly, get enough sleep and rest. This is not only a plea, it is also a suggestion in the form of a snooze button, in the form of a song. This is a song called 10 Minute Aur Sone De. Please let me sleep only 10 more minutes.
भाई मुझे 10 मिनट और सोने दे, देर होती है तो होने दे। हाय 10 मिनट और सोने दे। कहते हैं सुनते पर करते नहीं, सहते ही रहते नींद से सभी ये हारे। जीना है, जाना है, चलना है आगे, सपनों की दुनिया से उठ के भागे। पाना है, बढ़ना है, नींद से तो जागे। 10 मिनट और सोने दे, 10 मिनट और सोने दे, होना है जो भी होने दे। 10 मिनट और सोने दे। कोई सुबह से निकला है, कोई रात का चेला है, हर किसी जमाने में बस यही झमेला है। कैसी मनमानी है आखिर कौन किसको समझा है, अपने खाते के हिसाब हर किसी को गिनता है। हर किसी को चिंता है कौन किसकी सुनता है, सबको अपने धुन में है पड़े। फासलों को गिनता है, रास्तों को छुपता है, मंजिलों का कोई क्या करे। जीना है, जाना है, चलना है आगे, सपनों की दुनिया से उठ के भागे। पाना है, बढ़ना है, नींद से तो जागे। हाय मेरे 10 मिनट और सोने दे, ख्वाबों में खोने दे मुझे। हाय मेरे 10 मिनट और सोने दे, 10 मिनट और सोने।
This is the time that you put your hands in the air and clap. This is a song that we dedicate to the spirit of impact failure and the fact that there are so many of us in this room that imagine a future that is better than the one we have today. And it is only possible with you, it's only possible tonight. So for everybody here at SELCO Foundation and everybody here at Impact Failure, this is a song about the earth becoming paradise. Are you ready to sing with us? ಹಾರೈಸುವಂತೆ ಹಾಡು, ನೀ ಸ್ನೇಹ ಪ್ರೀತಿ ಹಾರೈಸುವಂತೆ ಹಾಡು. ಈ ಭೂಮಿ ಸ್ವರ್ಗ ಆಗುತ್ತಿದೆ ನೋಡು, ಈ ಭೂಮಿ ಸ್ವರ್ಗ ಆಗುತ್ತಿದೆ ನೋಡು. ನೀ ಸ್ನೇಹ ಪ್ರೀತಿ ಹಾರೈಸುವಂತೆ ಹಾಡು, ನೀ ಸ್ನೇಹ ಹಾರೈಸುವಂತೆ ಹಾಡು. ಹಕ್ಕಿಯಂತೆ ನೀನು ಹಾರಿ
Okay, how many of you here know Kannada? Okay, all those people who know Kannada will teach Kannada to the people who don't know Kannada today. Okay, I'm gonna say ee bhumi swarga and you'll all say agutide nodu. Say right? What? 1, 2, 3, go. Bhumi swarga agutide nodu. Ee bhumi swarga. Okay, people who don't know Kannada, raise your hands. You heard what they said? Are they good teachers? No? Okay, ask the person next to you, whoever knows. What did we sing? Come on, learn. He doesn't know Kannada. My God. It's okay. It's just a language. Agu, tide, nodu. Agutide nodu. It means I love you. Okay. Doesn't matter. Go to a girl and say agutide nodu.
original first time.
Okay. Now that we've all met, we've learned together. Let's sing together. 1, 2, 3, go. Ee bhumi swarga. Ee bhumi swarga. One last time for love and failures. Ee bhumi swarga. Ee bhumi swarga. Nisaha priti hare suvante hadu. Nisaha priti hare suvante hadu. ಬಂದು ಕವನ ಪ್ರತಿಸಿರು ಪುನಃ ಜನನ ಮಾತಾಗಲಿ ಬಂದು ಕವನ ಪ್ರತಿಸಿರು ಪುನಃ ಜನನ ಮನವಿರಲು ಎಂದು ನಿರ್ಭಯ ತೆರೆದಿರಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೃದಯ ಅಸೂಯೆಗಿಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಥಾನವಿಲ್ಲ ದ್ವೇಷಕ್ಕೆ ಭವಿಷ್ಯವಿಲ್ಲ ಅಸೂಯೆಗಿಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಥಾನವಿಲ್ಲ ದ್ವೇಷಕ್ಕೆ ಭವಿಷ್ಯವಿಲ್ಲ ಅಸೂಯೆಗಿಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಥಾನವಿಲ್ಲ Baby, don't go! ಈ ಭೂಮಿ ಸ್ವರ್ಗ ಆಗುತ್ತಿದೆ ನೋಡು ಈ ಭೂಮಿ ಸ್ವರ್ಗ ಆಗುತ್ತಿದೆ ನೋಡು ನಿಸ್ನೇಹ ಪ್ರೀತಿ ಹಾರೈಸುವಂತೆ ಹಾಡು ನಿಸ್ನೇಹ ಪ್ರೀತಿ ಹಾರೈಸುವಂತೆ ಹಾಡು
Big round of applause for our dear guest who did not leave. Thank you very much indeed. Yes, thank you for sticking on. अभी आप लोग जब खड़े हो गए खड़े रहिए खड़े please keep standing. It is a wonderful sight.
It is not a show over, but keep the standing.
This next song is about the path that we wish you all are on. This is the title track of our third album. It is about the path of the saint that lies inside all of us. To commemorate this album, we created a 40-page graphic storybook filled with illustrations, lyrics, credits, and stories that are about all of what we are singing about. And if you look at the front row with this gentleman in the white cap who looks like he has just returned from Hawaii, that bag that he has will have the goodies at the end of the show just outside. And therefore, it is now time to play you this song. It's a song about the path of the saint. Is gaane ka naam hai Rah-e-Fakir. Are you ready to bounce?
जग रंगीला सब रंगीला तन रंगीला मस्त है अब छबीला करके लीला मन कबीला मस्त है दिल का डमरू बज रहा है रूह के पैगाम पे झूम करके देखो बंदा चल पड़ा है राह पे राह फकीरा राह फकीरा राह फकीरा राह फकीरा वही कलंदर वही कबीरा जिसके अंदर राह फकीरा तारारी रारी 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 तारारी रारी मन के अंदर मैं जो डूबा दर्द मेरा धुल गया चकली थोड़ी सी फकीरी प्रेम मुझ में धुल गया उड़ रहा हूँ अकल वाले कायदों को तोड़ के मुझको खुद से ही मिली है अपने मन के मोड़ पे राह फकीरा राह फकीरा राह फकीरा राह फकीरा मैं हूँ कलंदर मैं हूँ कबीरा मेरे ही अंदर राह फकीरा
They never told us this would be this kind of a show! Be serious, they said. This is a serious conference full of serious people. You guys are crazy! अब बहुत हो गया अंग्रेजी में बकार बकार. It is time for a local language. And time to bring out the low-hanging fruit. Where is Jaideep Da? It is time for a Bollywood dance. Are you ready? Bollywood dance on independent song. What a meeting of two worlds. This is not a song, it is a story. Please get ready. It is time to have a masti. Please ask neighbor what it means because it is very sasti. Please to play. बबुआ तनिक बजाई के मनोरंजन शुरू करो.
तन्ना ना 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 ने पा सुनो रे सुनो सारे राजा और राज दुलारे, सुनो रे सुनो सारे राजा और राज दुलारे, जन्नत है प्यार के द्वारे, प्यार के रंग है सुहाने, सुनो रे सारे, सुनो रे सारे राजा और राज दुलारे, प्यार के रंग है सुहाने, जन्नत है प्यार के द्वारे, प्यार के रंग है सुहाने. नदियाँ प्यार की बह गई है, नदियाँ प्यार की बह गई है, नदियाँ प्यार की उड़ गई है चिड़िया मन की, उड़ गई है चिड़िया मन की. कोई तो बताए इसको. मैडम आप बीच में कहाँ भागने वाली थी? बताइए. हम इतने मतलब पसीना निकाल के एसी रूम में गाना बजा रहे हैं और आप है कि बाहर जा रहे. कहाँ से हैं आप?
आई एम फ्रॉम इलेक्ट्रॉनिक सिटी.
अरे अभी जल्दी भेजो इनको. अरे अभी निकलेगी तो परसों पहुंचेगी. वी विश यू हैप्पी जर्नी. पहुंच कर चिट्ठी जरूर भेजिएगा.
अरे कोई तो बताए इसको कि दाना है कहाँ. प्यार का झोंका है या माया धोखा,
प्यार का झोंका है या माया धोखा.
कोई तो दिखाए इसको. भाई साहब आपका नाम कहाँ है?
मेरा नाम समीर है भाई.
समीर, आप हमारे सारे गाने गा रहे थे, मतलब आप कहाँ से हैं?
हम स्वरात्मा से.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the crowd, one of the writers of one of the songs of one of Swarathma's songs, Sameer.
अरे कोई तो दिखाए इसको. नजारा है कहाँ?
जय गुरु दाहिने गाल पे की बाएं
जुल्फों में खुशबू गाल पे दिल था
जुल्फों में खुशबू गाल पे दिल था
पहली नजर में हाल दिल था
पहली नजर में हाल दिल था
कोई तो दिखाए मुझको Brother, where are you from?
Sierra Leone.
Just next to Bansankri. Okay, if you want to send love to your loved ones today, I will do it for you with our music. Yeah? The music that we are playing today is for your loved ones. अरे कोई तो बताए मुझको कहाँ है जाने जा सुनो रे सुनो सारे राजा और राज दुलारे सुनो रे सुनो सारे राजा और राज दुलारे जन्नत है प्यार के द्वारे प्यार के रंग है सुहाने सुनो रे सारे सुनो रे सारे राजा और राज दुलारे प्यार के रंग है सुहाने जन्नत है प्यार के द्वारे प्यार के रंग है सुहाने गुनगुना रे प्यार के रंग जन्नत है इसके संग रे गुनगुना रे भाई जन्नत है संगीत के संग रे गुनगुना रे भाई रे Come on, ladies and gentlemen, let me hear you one last time.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been an absolutely stunning experience. Thank you very, very much indeed. सिलेबस के हिसाब से हमने पूरा कोर्स कंप्लीट हो गया है। क्या छात्र को एक्स्ट्रा क्लास की अनुमति मिल सकती है?
Ladies and gentlemen, on the bass guitar, Jishnu Das Gupta. On the drums, Vinay. On the violin, Sanjeev Nayak. Myself, Vasu Dikshit on the vocals. On the guitar, Varun. On the sound, Anish Pannanam. And on the lights and tour management, Pawan Bhatt. And our crew, Purvik. More than anything, we would love to thank all the people, all the volunteers who have really put their sweat and blood and everything else with so much love to make this whole day happen. Give it up for all of them.
Ladies and gentlemen, we leave with our hearts full, but not before we take a picture with all of you standing. We're going to kneel right here at the Spirit of Music, and you're going to raise your hands and be everywhere all over the world tomorrow. Are you ready? All right, let's do this.
Okay, on the count of 3, give us your best smile ever. On 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're gonna do one more in Kannada style. Ondo, Erdo, Muro.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Swarathma. We're going to see you outside at the merchandise desk where we have something for you to take away and remember us by. Until then, this is Swarathma. Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and let us never forget this beautiful friendship. Thank you.
Thank you, Swarathma, for the amazing performance. Please accept our small token of appreciation. A big round of applause, please.
We've had a wonderful 2 days filled with insightful and vulnerable conversations. It has been very stimulating, and we take forward many good memories. Thank you so much for attending. Can I please invite Harish sir on stage for the concluding remarks?
I'm not going to sing. Don't worry, guys. Thank you so much for making this happen. To make a failure conference successful is a difficult thing, as you all know. And thank you, sir, for doing this and ending us in such a positive mode, saying that we will take it forward. And we need all this. And whom are we doing it for? We all came here for a certain reason. That world needs to develop. Climate change crisis is right on our doorstep. It's an urgency that we need to solve it yesterday. And so I hope we all go from here, do our work, no more papers, no more talking, but let's implement. As they gave us this wonderful inspiration, let's go ahead. And last, I really want to get, unfortunately, I got the credit from many of the speakers. I had zero involvement. I want to call my colleagues who actually were critical for making that Harab. Rachita, please. Shahab, Huda, Surabhi, whomever I can see, my colleagues, all of them from Northeast, Gautam, Anushik, everybody, thanks from the Northeast, from the Odisha team, SELCO India. I think, thank you all for making this actually happen. To all our funders, if we fail to meet our targets this quarter, you'll know why. Thank you. Thank you so much, and enjoy the evening, and hope to see you again in 2 years. Thank you so much. One second. Thanks to IIM. I hope we didn't disturb your hostels. I hope the students are sleeping well, but again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Harish sir, for those inspiring words. And with this, we have come to an end of our Impact Failure Conclave 2022. It was a great pleasure having you all here. Thank you. Have a nice evening.